Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. We are back here with Dr. Eric Reznik, joining us here from Hallandale, Florida, and Hallandale Beach, that is. Excited to have him back from Be Well Rehabilitation and Counseling Group, also as a ketamine and wellness clinic of South Florida at Hallandale. He does it all, working with groups, individuals, different ages and populations, offering so many of these alternative approaches out there to really help us. As far as martial arts, I know we'll talk a little bit about the therapeutic martial arts you offer, also neurofeedback, the ketamine assisted therapy, and even traditional approaches. So, again, Dr. Eric Reznik is his name, and he joins us here again to talk more about these more non traditional approaches today. And to get started, I would love for you to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, thank you so much for having me back here. I really enjoyed coming up on this podcast and talking to people and seeing, explaining about a lot of things that we do in psychology, about therapeutic aspects and so. And yes, I am clinical psychologist, and I do a lot of alternative and traditional therapies. We do regular, people know it as CBT or cognitive behavioral psychodynamic therapy. I work with children and adults, with elderly, older populations. One of my interesting aspect is that I speak Russian, and so I have a lot of Russian-speaking population. I was the first Russian-speaking psychologist in South Florida, so I get that sort of privilege of working with people and learning about this stuff. I also do forensics. I go to court. I do a lot of forensic evaluations.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And as you know from last time we discussed, I do the alternative approach a lot, right, as much as I do the traditional approach, because I think a lot of things work. And I kind of wanted to mention how we become pathological, how we have a
Yeah.
condition
What are
disorder.
some of these root causes? Are they genetic? Are they learned? Are they, learned from those around us? Please, I would love to know about this.
So really interesting because there's a lot of misconception, and like misconception comes from general population, general discussion. And
Mm-hmm.
misconception can be such as, well, if I tend to be preoccupied with something periodically, does that mean I have obsessive compulsive disorder?
Yeah.
That's for example, or if I don't attend something to, do I have attention deficit disorder? So is that a problem? Or if, for example, if I get like anxious occasionally, do I have anxiety disorder? Is depression genetic? What is it coming from? And these are a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of the stuff comes from social media,
Okay.
friends,
Yeah.
family. Um, and of course, if you cannot answer the question
Mm-hmm.
about something, then it's genetic. Then okay, it must be then genetics and stuff like that. Um, so that would be one of the big misconceptions. I do apologize. I gotta kind of respond real quick to a couple of things. Um, uh, so first of all, we should not think of conditions as social, you know, origins. That is so. In other words, conditions are it's a pattern. It's a pattern of anxiety, depression. It is a very specific kind of symptomatology, and a lot of it comes from like childhood and the way we learn how to cope at childhood, and then how we carry that into other relationships. Uh, is it genetic? Well, there's not a whole lot of genetic evidence. There's a lot of research in
Mm-hmm.
genetics. We don't discount it, but a lot of conditions do not come from genetics. We think they do,
Mm-hmm.
but they're biologically based. So depression's got biology, anxiety's got biology. A lot of this stuff has biological patterns in the brain. And yes, medication helps because it's biological. Is it genetic? Well, that's hard to say because usually we want to consider genes and environment kind
Okay.
of sort of come together in order to create a condition. And for example, if you've been abused as a child, and then if you dealt with some sort of anxiety, had trauma as a child, it stays with you. The way I explain to people in a very common format is imagine you're building a building and each brick is part of that building. So if
Okay.
bricks are deformed or they're messed up,
Yeah.
and therefore it affects the rest of the building in some way. So
Okay.
if the bricks, for example, are slightly offset, and now the building is being built on a skew, even a mild skew, it becomes a problem once you build a building.
Mm-hmm.
Think of that as your part of your characteristic personality. That
Okay.
there's building blocks. You deal with life, you deal with situations, with relationships. These are building blocks to your personality and your mental state. Some of these bricks may not be 100% good. They're maybe
Okay.
defective and stuff.
Yeah.
So by the time you become older, now these bricks are they're part of your messed up personality. They affect your life. They affect your relationships. Let's say the bricks of relationship were built in a
Yeah.
wrong way. Now you're gonna have a problem with the relationships, and it is such a vast uh, field of what can go wrong in so many different ways. So think of a defective bricks as your building block, and the defective bricks are messed up. Your life can be messed up just as well. This is more pathological. Can it become worse? Yes, because it becomes a pattern. People get depressed, people get anxious, people get panicky. That's very, very normal. We respond to trauma. Somebody dies or somebody we lose a job, we become depressed. That's kind of normal. Now, if you can't get out of it, if it's a pattern of a sort, then the answer is now it becomes more pathological. Yes, you can
Interesting.
respond to medication, but therapy is usually much, much better than that. And
Wow.
some people do not respond to talk therapy. So what goes inside of you doesn't mean it can come out the same way. So just because you're dealing with this stuff, sometimes you just can't say it or talk about it. This is why I use alternative therapies and alternative methods. Does that make kind of sense so far?
Sure does. Thank you so much for this. This is very informative, doctor. Wow. It's so funny. Thinking about the people that I know who've experienced mental health conditions, the ones I know, I figured they were acquired from the job, from, being in the military, from their experience with their parents, like, but it's just this is really good conversation. I'm interested in this more. So tell us more about these root causes of people with this psychological trauma that or psychological conditions. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to refer to it, right?
True, that's true. So a lot does come from trauma. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
trauma is can be very minute. Everybody experiences trauma in a different way. I'll tell you the biggest trauma for teenagers today: cell phones.
Yeah.
You want to punish somebody, take their cell phone away.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes very traumatic. And so again, but the reason I'm saying this is because the trauma can be different for different people. Sometimes people can live in a very traumatic environment,
Mm-hmm.
like in the war conditions or poverty. They
Yeah.
get used to that kind of trauma. They become very resilient to this. Versus somebody who never had the kind of trauma, they experience something at full blast. To them, it's more traumatic, even if it's maybe minute for somebody else. Um, so that's why it varies from person to person. What exactly, how do we respond to trauma? How do we incorporate trauma? Can trauma be forgotten? The answer is yes. It can go into like unconscious state and be there for a while. Let me give you an example. Let's say a little child, age 5, let's say, has really bad, abusive relationship with their significant other, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
a parent of a sort. And let's say the child kind of lives through it, but incorporates it deep in their mind. Let's say
Okay.
that's a building block. So when they get to be a teenager, they start to date, they start to have social relationships, and something goes wrong. They feel uncomfortable, they cannot engage, something happens. Well, where did it start? It started a long time ago, but the person's not really aware of it. They just know the symptom is they just cannot connect and cannot continue with the relation with something else, and therefore they think that it's just that it happened then. But the
Yep.
reality is it happened a long time ago, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of was molded itself inside your brain, inside your mind, inside your personality. So, and then it comes out as a symptom when you start dealing with a similar situation. In the most common way, we call it post-traumatic stress disorder. But PTSD have particular symptoms that we call it, the reason why we call it PTSD.
Okay.
But the reaction can be multifaceted. You can have anxiety, you can have depression, you can have an internal reaction. Some people even have psychotic breakdowns because of how their mind was kind of prepared and so on and so on.
Well, at this time, Dr. Resnick, could you remind us of all the ways we can reach out to you? And we're going to continue the conversation, obviously, after we do so. So remind us of the website.
Sure. So the website is bewellrehab.com. That's you're gonna find all the services out there.
Okay.
Uh, so for the telephone number is 954-367-6261. 307 sorry, 954-367-6261. That's the phone number that we have. So please call and then we'll definitely set up an appointment. But if you go to website, you're gonna see all of our services, the neurofeedback, the Ketamine has its own website. It's uh, Academy of South Florida .com/Hollandale. This is where we are. That's another information about Ketamine that we do. And
Awesome.
you're also going to find about therapeutic martial arts, which I kind of want to discuss a little more about it.
All right, perfect. Yeah. So first off, tell us a little about your background with martial arts, and then I want to know how we're using this as therapy for so many people.
So I've been in martial arts since 1980. I know that many people haven't even been born in 1980, but yes, I've been doing that.
78, actually, myself.
Oh, okay. Well, that's when I came to America from Kiev. But in the reason I got into martial arts is because to me it became a life-changing experience. When I was younger, being from a different country, not speaking English, kind of being initially overweight, and then kind of lost a lot of weight from being pretty weak. I got bullied a lot. I got bullied by
Hmm.
all kinds of people, and I did not know how to respond. Did not know how to stand up for myself. So when I was observing a particular class, I was really intrigued of how they can defend themselves, and I really wanted to be part of that group. I joined another group, but that changed my life forever.
Yeah.
Martial arts became not only the way to defend myself, but it actually became my self-esteem builder, and I changed my whole personality because of it. I improved my ability to communicate. I improved my ability
Hmm.
to think differently, to defend myself, to even accomplish tasks
Yeah.
just in general. And then there's different aspects of that. And I began to not only study the physical aspect, but I also started learning about the philosophical, psychological, cultural. It is 4,000 year therapy, or has a huge history behind it. And when I became a psychologist, I thought, well, if that worked for me, what can I do in order to help other people using similar methods? At the time, I was learning different methods of psychology, of therapy, and I
Yeah.
looked at so many alternative methods like art therapy, music therapy. I was exposed during the hospital system. It was really interesting to see how we use different modalities to do this. I've never come across when martial arts is used as a therapeutic tool. I did, however, find a lot of movies and a lot of different uh, groups of people who were using in conjunction with. You're familiar with Cobra Kai, right?
Yes, of course. Everyone loves that show.
Yeah, well, I've saw what the last episode of yeah last night. And of course, I grew up on the Karate Kid, all four of them plus the one with Jackie Chan. So, and if you look at the movie itself, it is very therapeutic in general. There's a lot of social communications, a lot of working out the issues. All of that was really, really interesting and really, really great. So, and in fact, there's a research study that where they're using that movie along with a behavioral problem kids, and they show how much they improve just by watching the movie. So I designed this particular modality as a tool, using it metaphorically, indirectly, directly. There's structure wise. There's so much history. There's so much things that goes into martial arts itself. Bowing, kia, uniform, environment, and that's just the superficial structure of this. The actual techniques themselves, the defense, the aggression control, the mind control, meditation. There's a lot that goes into it. And I thought, well, let me do research. And I actually made it into my dissertation. I worked in this as my dissertation. And I found to be such an effective way of helping people that I developed a whole modality based upon that. I wrote a book on therapeutic martial arts. You can find the book on Amazon or bookbaby.com. Sorry,
Oh,
getting
you broke up. Go ahead.
yeah. So
What is
um
the book?
I'm sorry.
You said you wrote a book on Amazon.
Yeah, I wrote a book in therapeutic martial arts. It's describing what I'm doing in terms of the therapy itself.
Wow.
It's kind of geared to more of a clinician, but anybody can read it because I wrote it in such a way that it's very a simple way of doing this. And so yeah, I'm using that in a very therapeutic way. In other words, I have groups. It's a group therapy. It's a clinical program. I get my clientele from other referral sources. I don't advertise as martial arts. I advertise it as a therapy itself. I'm doing research on that to make sure to see how the program actually works. I do a lot of presentations to a lot of clinical groups, mental health associations, and I'm trying to spread the whole new concept of how to actually be able to do therapy using martial arts, which is kind of unique within itself.
Mm. This is fascinating. By the way, what is the title of the book?
It's called therapeutic martial arts.
And oh, easy one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
therapeutic
for
martial arts.
right, because also because I want to Google it. I want to find it. But hold on, because I want to see it.
Sure.
But it's to spell your name. It's Eric, not a
No, no, no,
K.
no. Yeah, Ericreznik.
Reznik. Perfect. I just want
Yeah.
people to know because they say, okay, perfect.
Yes. So that's what the I wrote a book in my martial arts. I wrote another kind of book, but this particular one is a really unique way of showing how it works as a therapy session.
Oh my goodness, this is fascinating. And who started off your career like this? Was it your dad who was in martial arts?
Nobody. Nobody was. It was just my drive into wanting to do something different. When I found out that I can use it
Wow.
for defense, I thought I need this.
Yeah.
I want this, and I need this, and this is gonna propel me into just being having a strong characteristic. And I can tell you that because of this,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get my doctoral degree. I was able to do things that I've never done before. It not only helps you to mentally to do your stuff, but also pushes you. The work ethics, the continuous determination of accomplishing tasks within martial arts, kind of drive you to an entire characteristic about you and about how you approach the world. And then, of course, my mentor. My teacher became a mentor.
Yeah.
We still interact. He's still a great guy. And so, he became almost like my older brother, where I relied at the time on his advice, and the way that he approached martial arts. And he helped me to develop, myself as an individual. His name is, by the way, is Luis Ortega. I want to give him all the credit. Luis Ortega.
Oh, Luis Ortega, that is inspiring. My goodness. And I want to hear some of the experience about this therapeutic approach with martial arts that are helping people, men, women, children.
So my program is designed specifically on children and adolescents
Okay,
for now. Now I
perfect.
have other people within my program who actually do this with adults.
Okay.
It's a different approach. It works with behavioral issues. It works with somebody who's being bullied. It works with somebody who is bullying somebody else.
Uh-huh.
It works with those who even have been abused before by their parents, by their peers. It works with people who have depression, anxiety. Some of the people that come to me, adolescents and kids, they have severe problems. Um, I had a group, not at this time, but I actually had a group for autistic students, which also helps them to do using martial arts to improve their mentality approach. Um, but these are the individuals. So I work with the kids and adolescents with this program. With adults, it's a little bit different because, of course,
Okay.
adult issues are different,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we use the same principle. We just don't use it exactly the same way, but we still use within the modality of adults to work with their issues on self-esteem and depression and the past traumas. Uh, a friend of mine is a great guy. His name is John Giordano. He actually is a 10th degree black belt in Nisi Goju, and he had a group
Wow.
running for substance abusers using that with those who have substance abuse issues. So we will also working with those individuals just as well.
Amazing. Dr. Resnick, you do a lot. And
Right.
yeah, but the martial arts therapeutic, is that has to be in person or is that could you do that through Zoom?
No, it's a group therapy.
Yeah,
So
that's what
the
I
way
thought.
the group is structured, and then maybe that'll help a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
we do meditation. You have to sit there
Okay.
and teach them how to meditate, what
Mm-hmm.
exactly goes to meditation. Then we do a lot of practice in meditation. Then we do the actual exercise as a group. You are in a dojo or the martial arts practice
Mm-hmm.
environment, so you cannot do it over Zoom. You have to actually be there. Then we do the actual martial arts after the exercises. We train on kicks, punches, self-defense, sparring. I mean, things that you do in martial arts. And then I use that in a therapeutic way while we're training. There's a lot of things that happens during training itself, but therapeutically. Afterwards, we sit down. We have a discussion, a group therapy discussion. Whatever came up during training, whatever came up part of their life. We connect to the real life experience, and it's an actual group therapy. We sit down and we discuss those issues, and then we meditate again. That's the structure of the actual group itself.
All
So
right, thank
Zoom,
you.
I don't know.
I know,
Uh,
probably not, but I mean, can meditate. But this is exciting. And when how does it work if someone wants to get involved in these types of sessions? How do you recommend, right? Because there's all sorts of modalities. So when you meet someone, do you know, or they come specifically for this therapeutic treatment?
So we have a pre group discussion.
Okay.
I want to make sure that you are actually going to be able to do so. For example, if you're psychotic, it's
Oh,
unlikely you're going to be part of this group. So we do in the first meeting when I meet with a parent, with a child, with an adolescent, we go over the program itself. I explain how it works, what to do, and then I can see if they're fitting the program or not fitting the program. If I can say, well, maybe other modalities may be better for you otherwise. Um, so it's kind of a weeding out process. Upon determining if they willing to be participating in the program and they can do it, then they come to the group. They get a uniform, they get a patch, they get the whole thing. Uh, the way I get my clients is either through pediatricians, psychiatrists, psychologists, medical doctors. If people are aware or they go on a website and they read what the program is about, they can go through the website and they can say, "Oh, this may be good for me." And then they do the pre-therapy interview. They call me up, we set up an appointment, we have the whole discussion. Right now, I have one mom coming in with three kids, and she found me, I think, on the internet, and she called me up. She said, "Well, my kids have behavioral problems." So now they're going to come in for the actual discussion, and we'll find out if they fit, and if they do, they're in a group.
wow,
It's also limited
amazing.
amount. I don't go past 10 people.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, we still have more time to talk in our last 5 minutes. What else do you want to make sure we come across for today?
Maybe remind them about the ketamine itself,
Sure.
the other alternative stuff that we do, kind of other services that really helpful. Ketamine is great. I mean, we have now
Yeah.
potentially increased intake, so
Mm-hmm.
we have people coming in. We also do infusion. I'm sorry. We also do the vitamin infusion. We do semaglutides, or it is Ozempic. We help people to deal with their weight, with their self-esteem, just in vitamins in general. It's a whole clinic setup. But ketamine is getting more popular. They're doing more research about it, and I think I believe in this therapy very much so. I think it's a really unique way of approaching mental health and trying to help people to get better. So, yeah.
And what is the most rewarding part of your job? You clearly love helping people. Um, do you ever have bad days where it's hard? Because you're taking upon a lot of people's angst, anxiety, problems. How do you stay so grounded and so positive and focused?
So I do a lot of activities. So only okay. Let me comment on bad days versus good days and what really drives me. What drives me is successful sessions. If I see that people are involved and they're improving, to me, that's great. And to me, that's uh, I don't find my job as a job. I find my job as just something that I enjoy doing it. So I don't go to work. It's not a difficult thing for me. I really enjoy what I do. So that's rewarding for me. Regarding the bad days, yeah, there's I'm a human being. We had all kinds of bad days, of course. There are some clients that are extremely resistant, and sometimes they don't follow your advice or anything else. That's fine too. Um, in terms of letting it out to how to deal with it. Yes, I am human. Yes, I deal with a lot of my personal issues like everybody else do, but I try to find things to let go some of this stuff. One, I leave work at work. I don't take work home. Well, first of all, I'm not allowed. Second of all, I just don't, because if I do, then it affects my life, my family. And then I do some other things, like I do sports, I do fishing, I go places and trying to, I guess, loosen up the valve that brings down the tension, so that I don't get bogged down with a lot of issues as well. That's what I do.
Well, I commend you on all the work you're doing and those you're helping here. And it's exciting to have you back again, talking about this therapeutic martial arts as another form to help people. Again, alternative modalities. You're offering the neurofeedback. You offer, my gosh, the forensic aspect of it all. You offer so many things here. And again, if you're in the area, now you mostly work in what counties?
So I work in Broward and Dade, mostly Broward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Broward and Dade. We're down here. But I also do. I can go other places as well. And telehealth we can do pretty much anywhere for that point. And then telehealth is really good. We can do traditional therapy on telehealth as well. But
Beautiful.
and I have a team of people. I have a lot of great therapists who work with me. Who, if I'm too busy, if I'm overwhelmed, they pick up the slack and they have their own clientele as well. So they're amazing. I'll assign clients to them as well. I trust them, believe it or
Yeah.
not, with my own mental health. Sometimes they're great. I get the pick of the little of the best things, the best therapists.
Amazing.
So
As you say, mental health is the well-being of the mind, and you can help so many with individual group therapy. We've talked in the past a little bit about the hypnosis that you do as well.
yep,
There's also family, couples therapy. I mean, addictions, light sound therapy. There's so many things you help with, and of course, the psychological evaluations. And we can also talk more next time about, as we lost you there, the forensic aspect too, which we've touched upon before.
I
But
did.
in the meantime, bewellrehab.com is the website. Reach out. Tell Dr. Eric Reznik I said hello. And it's always a
Will
pleasure
do.
speaking with you. Thank you so much for being here and for helping so many. We learn more and
Thank
more about you every week. Thank you, Eric.
thank you, Jill. It's been a pleasure, and have a great weekend and a week. And we'll talk next week.
You got it. Sounds good. Looking forward to that. Enjoy the rest of your week as well. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.